wave of workers' strikes sweeping across America.
Picket lines popping up nationwide.
Thousands of American workers are on strike, and thousands more are preparing to walk out in what some on social media have dubbed Striketober.
Across the country and across the world, workers are essential to functioning economies and democracies. In the United States, a fundamental belief in the right to pursue work and reap the fruits of your labor underpins our system.
In the U.S., unions began forming in the late 18th century among skilled laborers like craft and tradesmen in urban areas to address insufficient wages.
Unions enable workers to form and exercise collective power in a context in which the exercise of individual power is insufficient.
The right of workers to freely organize unions was enshrined in law through the passing of the National Labor Relations Act in 1935. Through this legislation, Congress recognized the workers' situation as predicament. These workers were unable to effectively advocate for better conditions as their employers were favoring harsh tactics to combat unionization, including espionage, termination of employment, and blacklisting. The act also established the National Labor Relations Board, which safeguards workers from unfair labor practices. If unions are so great, then why are they so sparse today?
Ironically, the air traffic controllers union of that day, PATCO, was just one of a few unions that endorsed Ronald Reagan for president in 1980. And then they were on strike and he destroyed the union. And he sent a signal to all employers of like, hey, don't just like be a good negotiator and get a good deal to make your company thrive. Kill the fucking union altogether, like eliminate worker voice and power. And the US has always had this tradition of being, so much more anti-union.
Union membership began a precipitous decline beginning in the 1950s and 60s. At their peak, unions covered more than 30% of U.S. workers. But in 2019, union membership hovered just above 10%. Over the same period, the share of income going to the top decile grew from just over 30% to approximately 50%.
The National Labor Relations Act was passed in 1935. Congress has literally never passed not only a law, even a paragraph or a sentence or a comma that makes it easier for workers to form unions and bargain collectively since 1935.
Another reason for low union membership is the situation workers face. The decision whether to unionize may not be much of a decision at all. According to an Economic Policy Institute study, U.S. employers are charged with violating federal law in 4 out of 10 organizing campaigns. While the law has often treated workers as dispositionist actors, it might be time to flip that paradigm, given the situation that workers face and employers' intentional efforts to limit worker bargaining power.
Jeff Bezos, the former CEO, went to space, came back, said, "Thank you for paying for it." We watch our coworkers get carried out on stretchers every other day, and we want to fight back for what we rightfully deserve.
This is Chris Smalls, former supervisor at a New York facility. Amazon fired him in 2020 after he held a walkout because of unsafe working conditions amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. He was even nice enough to talk to us.
Yeah, a little bit about me. Single father. I have twins, 1 boy, 1 girl. They're 9 years old. It's ironic that I left a union job to go to Amazon, expecting Amazon to be better. And at first it was. The difference was the long hours, the overall physicality of the job. It breaks you down gradually, not all at once.
One way to understand the Amazon fight is who has the power to control working conditions at Amazon. Is it just management, or do the workers have a voice in that?
They're not listening to their workers. They're doing what Amazon does, which is calculating their profits. You know, they're putting profits above people.
Racial equity and racial justice has been a big part of that fight as well. We're seeing this sort of cut across the economy as we've seen an uptick in strikes and worker militancy.
They spread lies saying, you sign up, you're going to get fired, calling the police on us, cutting off our electricity, and creating that intimidation factor and creating that doubt. That's what they're doing. Here in New York, we have a different energy. We decided that the time was now.
There appears limited potential for tort law to fill gaps in the American labor law regime. Historically, tort law has often been propositioned by employers to enjoin or disrupt union organizing efforts.
I want to be very careful about allowing tort back into labor law, because so much of what unions do and what workers do through their unions was once considered tortious.
Claims such as tortious interference with contract, trespass, and other property-related claims were given something like property rule protection. Courts began to treat employment contracts as property.
And no amount of legislating individual rights stuff would replace it. Workers have to have collective power for us to have a just society.
Nonetheless, there continue to be significant issues in the American labor law regime, including insufficient remedies, wrongful discharge, and broad union-busting activities of powerful corporate entities.
However, what are the tools, tactics, strategies to get to the point of vindicating workers' rights or getting them in a position where they can win that kind of power? I'm very open to, any kind of strategies.
I mean, if you could have a selective incorporation of tort doctrine so that workers could sue employers for torts for interfering with their union activity, I'd be open to thinking about that.
So in other words, because the labor laws are insufficient, we have to use whatever tools we can that are legal and appropriate to, draw attention, bring pressure, economic pressure, whatever. But one thing I know for sure is that worker power at Amazon will play a key part of the story of the working class of this country of the next 20, however many years.
The laws definitely still need to be changed in this country. A lot of them from the civil rights movement, they're outdated. We're behind the 8 ball with that. And I hope that politicians pay attention, that we need to create some laws that actually protect workers.
Thank yous to Professor Benjamin Sachs, Congressman Levin, and Chris Smalls, who were all super gracious in allowing us to interview them. Thank you so much, and we couldn't have done this without you.